Okay, so our next presenter is Jamie. Jamie is actually not yet a Stanford student. She's going to be enrolled in the fall. She's still finishing high school, but is one of the most professional, passionate, and productive people I've worked with. She actually reached out to Stanford and got connected with my group when she was only 14 and immediately started getting engaged with the type 1 diabetes work, presenting to both PhD students and peds endocrinology faculty, and then eventually moving on from studying and understanding what was going on and giving introductions and background on the reality of diabetes to our students, to undertaking her own original research project, which you'll hear about today. So, welcome, Jamie.
Okay, so hi, I'm Jamie, and here's our amazing team that I was able to work with. And I just wanted to give a brief introduction to diabetes management technologies. So first, there's the continuous glucose monitor or continuous glucose sensor, CGM, and that tells you your blood sugar every 5 minutes or so. And then there's what's called an insulin pump that delivers insulin through a device and through the tubing and into your body. And then lastly, if you combine both of those tools with a control algorithm, you get what's called a hybrid closed loop system. And so if your continuous glucose monitor senses that your blood sugar is going too high, then the control algorithm and the insulin pump will work together to give you more insulin to get your blood sugar back down into range. And so these tools all help improve outcomes, but they're also very inaccessible. To highlight that, here's an example of people using a specific type of diabetes or hybrid closed loop called Loop. And you can see that the vast majority of the people using this technology are white, highly educated, and have high household incomes. Also, you can see that Medicaid only covers CGM for a few states. The green states are the only ones that cover CGM for everyone. And I was really surprised that California only covers pediatrics. And along with that mini literature review, I did a larger literature review with lots of sources, and I found that educated white people with private insurance, high household income, and type 1 diabetes versus other types of diabetes are the most likely to use diabetes management technologies. And during my literature review, I realized that there wasn't a lot of information on the association between patient demographics and healthcare provider recommendations. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. And I'm hypothesizing that this same population will also get the most recommendations for diabetes technologies. So onto the research process. First, I needed to develop survey questions to target our question. And then I made consent and assent forms so that people taking our survey would know about a little bit of background information about our survey. We then got project funding from JDRF, formerly the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, to pay people to take our survey as incentives, and also to pay for targeted Facebook advertisements. We decided that these advertisements would be the best way to reach people that only people with diabetes, and also to accurately represent the population of California. We only did the survey in California, by the way. Next, we got institutional review board approval, and we were able to release the survey in December. So next, we learned that people were gaming our system and were taking the survey multiple times in order to get more money. And so that was a bit of an issue, since we needed to make sure that this didn't mess up our results. So we needed to match up the IP addresses of people taking the survey to the responses. And lastly, all of this was done in R. So onto the results. Obviously, all of them are the ones that had unique IP addresses. So I'm not including the ones that people took multiple times. So we had 111 total responses, or unique responses, and there are roughly 39 million people in California. And so we tried to, with that small sample size, represent everyone in California. And we underrepresented women, people who identified as Hispanic, and also people who had primary languages other than English, probably because our survey was only in English though. And we overrepresented non-Hispanic white people. So there's some room for improvement there. I just wanted to share a couple of key results. First of all, on this graph, you can see annual household income on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, there's percent of participants that received healthcare provider recommendations. And the different colors represent the different types of diabetes management technologies. And at first, it looks like there's not really a clear correlation for any of them. But then if you take out the income bracket of $20,000 to $35,000 a year, then there's a much clearer correlation. This is the same graph, just without that one income bracket. And if you take a second to look at the green line for hybrid closed loop systems, you can see that there's a very clear upward trend, which we expected. And also for CGM, there's also an increasing trend, but it's a bit less dramatic. And then for insulin pump, there's not really a correlation at all. So I thought this is really interesting since hybrid closed loop systems are the newest technology. And so it makes sense that they're the worst kind of disparities. CGM's the second newest and insulin pumps are the oldest. So I was really interested in that. And in case you're wondering what was up with the $20,000 to $35,000 a year income bracket, that one was 100% white. So something to think about. Here's another graph. On the x-axis, there is self-identified race and ethnicity. On the y-axis, there's the percent of participants that received healthcare provider recommendations. And again, the different colors represent the different types of diabetes technologies. And we were hypothesizing that non-Hispanic white people would have some of the highest rates of recommendation. But according to this graph, it actually looks like they had some of the lowest, which was surprising. And I think this is due to two main reasons. First of all, that we had a very small sample size of people of color. And second of all, because the income of people of color did not actually match how it looks like in real life. Here's the race and ethnicity breakdown of people making $125,000 a year to $150,000 a year. And that is not actually how it looks in real life. So our takeaways are that there are probably more complexities in health disparities than we had previously thought. And household income might be the primary indicator of recommendations instead of race and ethnicity. Also, California healthcare disparities might just be different than in the rest of the US. Also, as I was mentioning though, we had people doing our survey multiple times. And so in the future, we need to prevent duplicate entries. And this could also just be a call for increased research in diabetes management technology disparities. So because of the limitations of our survey, we're going to re-release the survey to increase the sample size of people of color to have more conclusive results. And I'm also obviously going to continue working with SURF in college. It's been incredible. So here are my sources, and thank you.
Any questions or comments from Jamie for those in the room or those calling in?
Is your new survey other features, or how are you presenting this this time to try to control?
I think we're going to release the survey on Facebook, and each of them we're going to have a ton of different Facebook ads, and each link can only be used once. So that way people don't do the survey multiple times.
I think Harry was also curious how you're going to try to select the people of color and other groups that we want to try to get represented.
Oh, okay. So in Facebook advertisements, you can add kind of interest groups that are associated with different races and ethnicities, like Black culture, or I don't know, different. There are definitely ways that you can target different populations like that.
Real science to surveys, having done a couple of surveys in particular. One of the things we learned interesting about it when it comes to looking at potential disparities based off of ethnicity, race, or socioeconomic. There are multiple different social media platforms, very distinct demographics. Example, age is governed by or age directs you to different social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and others. You might consider exploring other social media platforms to capture those.
Cool. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Let's thank the speaker
Cool.
once more.